Known as Diffusion on the forums. Also been helping manage a pretty much a gaming shop now for the past 6 years. So I've kind of been knowing these collectibles sort of stuff. Also on and off and on Disney pin collector as well. So.
John Serpico, known on the forums as Serpico BC. I'm a financial director and board member with about 10 years of incredibly exciting financial and economic experience. And I get to talk about it with you guys.
I'm Francois Jacques. I'm known to many as Shadow Scars 22 on the forums, but also as the pin trader. So I'm here to talk mostly about how the pins, the economics of the pins works in conjunction with John, and also present my site and all the other ways to acquire pins in the way that it works right now.
Okay, so
Go ahead and introduce the presentation.
Go ahead.
With your introduction.
Oh, mine. So really the point I want to make first is that even though a lot of this is going to be financial, the main aspect of this is the community, because there have been a lot of places that have done collectibles in the past, and they can go either very well or very wrong. So an example of something that's gone very wrong, is anyone familiar with Beanie Babies? Yeah. The most famous story is that a family decided that they were going to use them as a way to send their kids to college. And so they were running around collecting these things. And of course, the conversations from store owners, because the artificially created demand was, oh, these things, you know, they're coming out, we can't keep them in stock, and they're going to be worth so much. And the company was in on it, because they would print a guide saying, well, it's worth $6 now, but in the year 2025, it's going to be worth $250. And these guys spent 100 grand collecting these, and they cannot get rid of them. Much like every bubble, everyone's just hoarding them, and then kind of a switch turns on in everyone's head almost at the same time, and the market crashes. So anytime you're looking at something where you're collecting as an investment, it's probably a bad idea, because if you're caught on the wrong side of that bubble, you're going to be out a hell of a lot. But some collectible communities do it right, because they have, like Disney or the Olympics, the community there. I mean, Disney people are the nicest people you can ever meet. Yeah. And that goes a long way into keeping things sane and friendly. You know, as opposed to the Beanie Babies, where there were fights breaking out in stores to try and get the last Snorlash or whatever the Beanie Baby equivalent is. Yeah, it's, Disney people are always going to be about making friends before making a profit. And in the same spirit, you've got Olympics. I mean, they've been trading pins now for 100 years. And while some of them are rare, particularly there's one that was withdrawn after maybe half an hour back in the 50s, and it's worth a hell of a lot. You don't see that kind of thing because the Olympic spirit is very much a part of the community. So that's the way we're trying to push everything, rather than just have it be about, hey, check it out, I've got a shiny thing and it's worth so much. You've actually got a memento, and you'll remember a lot more about the trades that you made and the people you met, rather than just getting something.
There's a very fine line between a collectible and a keepsake. And I think to Pedro's point, the goal is to look at these as keepsakes that have an internal value, a value within this system that we all here have created, but they're keepsakes, and we should look at them like that. And I have not seen a wild, crazy, Beanie Baby-esque fist fight yet, and I don't think we'll get there, but, as Pedro said, that's all on us. It's up to us to build the community that we want to have, which I guess is a good life lesson if you think about it.
Shall we go about presenting where can we go to learn about the pins?
Sure. So first place, I pretty much point everybody. You please, even if you just lurk, come on over to the Pinny Arcade forums. This is pretty much the hub of every single piece of information we could possibly get and give out to everyone in the community. If it were not for the forums, we would probably never know the existence of this wonderful pin Naughty Dog gave us. If it were not for the forums, you wouldn't know if you were not at certain PAX and then certain people started to sell those pins online again. If it were not for the forums, we probably would be coming into most of this PAX even pretty blind on what we would have to do to get certain pins and how to get everything going. We try to get as much info as possible. We try to, including probably stuff like print runs and such like that, but we're doing everything we can. This is also the place where we put together the groups, as in if you wish to join a group and say you want to go always to one PAX a year, but you know you're not ever going to get to Australia, we can probably get you together with a person who is in Australia that would love your guys' pins too.
Yeah, I mean, they are starving for all the pins from East and Prime and South, and they might not be able to get as many as anyone who's ever going to Prime, but you know, they will make up for it with the pins that you absolutely can't get short of a plane ticket.
It's also a good medium if you want to learn like rapidly about some new pins that come out. For example, when the Naughty Dog pin became available on the Naughty Dog store, the first place I learned it was on the forums because there was suddenly 40 new messages on that thread. So it's a pretty good way to know where the interest of the pin collecting community is right now, and I suggest you take a look.
Obviously, there is a few Twitters you really should be following at all times. Pinny Arcade is the official one, and they tend to get a pretty good job on telling us when a new pin drop is coming, or if the lists are coming out for particular PAXs. Redness, obviously, would be Brian. He's the head of merch at Pinny Arcade, and he's the one that tends to draw pretty good hints on when we should expect to hear info about this, hear info about that, and of course Gabe. Gabe likes to always tease this stuff too, especially like the Ellie pins, not Ellie, Hannah and Carl being two great examples.
They are infuriatingly good at building buzz.
Obviously, the site. This is where we get the majority of the pin drops. But if you're into this hobby and you're not looking at the site every so often, please start.
Sometimes it might just be some hints about the designs about comic pins, or sometimes they will just give heads up that, hey, soon this week I will notify you guys about the new pins for this PAX or this event. So while reading the comic is a pretty good idea to do at the same time, you can just take a quick look at the news and see if there's anything coming up.
I think one thing that's interesting when we looked at the order in which we presented these, we presented the forum first, which is, the decidedly not as official as the Penny Arcade site, but we did that for a reason. That's the Penny Arcade site here, that is the site of record, and, at Penny Arcade, that is the Twitter of record. But part of the fun of this, one of the reasons why this is a cool hobby to be in, is because so much of your time is spent speculating on what's going to come out, estimating how many pins will be at a PAX, talking about what they are, people being elated or disappointed when the expectations go right or wrong. That's the joy of it. If not for the forums, if not for the community that we built, PAX would really exist as pin trading would exist as four standalone entities spread across the globe. The fact that we are on the forums, the fact that we talk about this, the fact that it's interesting to us means that this is a 365-day-a-year hobby, if, of course, you want it to be. If not, then it's just a fun place to lurk and say, man, these people are really into this thing that I kind of like. And you want that, too. You never want to be the only person dancing on the dance floor. And there are a lot of people dancing on the dance floor as fervently as you want them to be to kind of warrant your interest in this. So it's just something to keep in mind.
And one of the other things on the forums that can be pretty cool also is, for example, sometimes a third party will spoil one of their pins for the upcoming PAX, but you can't watch every third-party sites to know when they will announce the pins, but we have some pretty watchful members on the forums that will report to the forums almost the moment it is up. Yeah. So it's a good way to gather everything in one place.
Yeah, I mean, the Naughty Dog was case in point because we found out about that from someone posting on Twitter, and even a month later when we spoke to Gabe or Mike Krulik about it, he had no idea it existed. So the official page is where you're going to see most of the pins, but it's not for all of them. The forums is most accurate for every single one.
So obviously there is a ton of different places to get the pins. The store is the main one, right online. They still have a bunch of all of the good ones, and obviously right here at PAX. Those are your. It's pretty simple on those ones. Store is really good at telling us when it's going to be sold out too. Also on the Twitter feeds and everything. And PAX, you can pretty much tell which pins are good and which pins are bad. Easy to get, hard to get, etc., etc.
It's interesting just to, even if you're not wanting necessarily to get pins at a particular moment, just browsing the Pinny Arcade official store from time to time to see when things go out of stock or out of print is also sometimes interesting, like the lookouts, for example, that for now we're not sure where we stand on those, but people seem to be wanting to keep them a bit more than previous PAXs where they were pretty much throwing them away. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. We'll speak a little more about the current PAX after we present this. We have a few, we can share with you guys what we have found so far.
So this is the site, the other site I tell everyone to come to right after the forums. PinnyPals is our wonderful trading site. You can set up a free account there, put on your entire collection, and immediately start looking at who has what pins for spares and start sending trade requests. We pretty much run it straight feedback style, and this has been working absolute wonders. Just to give it some legitimacy of it, I know we've had 2 confirmed DLC trades off of PinnyPals.
Just to get the water level in the room, can I get I was going to say show of hands, but I like clapping instead. Could I get a claps from anyone who is just getting into pin trading for the first time, like right now?
Wow.
Very cool.
Welcome.
Cool. Welcome. Everybody else, please clap for those people that went out on the lives to join our community. So for the uninitiated, very exciting 15-second story. The DLC pin was that the first pin, the first official pin?
The merch was, yeah.
Merch 2012 first. So the DLC pin is the white whale. It's the, it's the delicious orange on the tree just out of reach. I don't know why I used that, but sometimes you see an orange and you're like, oh, if only. But so whenever someone, new folks, mentions the DLC pin, that is literally the rarest pin there is. And, one thing that's nice about this hobby, too, especially those of you that are joining it now, is you come into a world with legends in it already. Yeah. The world is now bigger than you. Before this, there were 179 pins, and now there are another 13 that have entered the mythos. So what's nice is you're coming into a nice, rich world, and you can, kind of determine your engagement level and pick and choose. And if you say, well, I'm a completist. I want that DLC pin. Just best of luck to you. Just really, you're troopers. You're what makes the world tick and move. But what's nice is you've entered into something that is established with people that know what is going on, with a wealth of resources that are all community built.
And all the while that is true, although the hobby is quite new. So all of you just started, the pins that you get at this PAX, just imagine in a year and a half or in 2 years, they will be pretty valuable to new collectors that didn't get a chance to get them here. And so it's a good idea to get hold of a few doubles if you want to collect and eventually trade for other pins that you don't have. It's a thing to think about.
Like you can, I'll give a little bit of a hint right now, you can get a good start on giving a really good trade if you can somehow get a second Ugin, the Magic the Gathering pin. That one is a bit difficult this year to get, or this PAX to get anyway.
Yeah.
And there will probably be a very heavy demand for that pin afterward.
And that's the nice thing about PAX and kind of doing all this exciting stuff live is, if you're there on Friday, and you see people with lanyards full of pins, talk to them. That is the point of all of this. And, you can say, well, what are the tough ones to get? If you come in knowing what pins you want and say, hey, is the Ugin pin tough to get? And someone will say, oh, yeah, I had to, do this, and I was there at a certain time, and I had to, tap my head and wave a flag, and, all of a sudden it magically appeared, then you know. And, that's why, for folks that collect pins, there's this kind of through line through all of the days of PAX as you try to hunt down the pins you want, because you know that some will be rare. And as the other panelists said, if you find out one is rare and you somehow luck into 2 of them, hold on to that pin. Put it in a little protective sleeve, because it will be valuable to you later on when, PAX rolls through Australia and you are not up for flying to literally the other side of the world.
Also, at the same time, even some of the easy pins to get here can be absolutely blow up in value. This past Australia, the demand for Patrick Office's talent pipes was astronomical.
Even though the runs of all the pins were roughly the same, for some reason that one was very in demand at Australia. Also the merch pin, which is common. I mean, you pick it up as a bonus from the store, but they really wanted it. I don't even know why.
So apart from the natural trading environment that we get at PAX and the one that was made at PinnyPals, the first place where people traded pins was on eBay, of course. What I can say about eBay now is, obviously you can get good deals out of eBay. Like, people will sell their pins on there sometimes. However, there's a few drawbacks, like if you see a pin on eBay, it will not stay there forever. Also, if some people might want to get different pins from different sets, and it's kind of complicated to get exactly what you need. There's also a risk of fraud, because the people on eBay, of course, like you might know, are any regular individuals that decide to sell on there. And there's also, if you are interested on selling on eBay some of your pins to buy newer pins or the such, you need to be mindful that eBay takes a cut of about 10% of your sales, so it's a pretty huge cut. It's something to consider. There's also the site that I run, which is called the Pin Trader. We have almost all the pins on there. You can buy individual pins if you want. If you want one pin from a set, you don't have to buy the whole set. You can get only the pin you want. So it's interesting in the sense that you get exactly what you want. We offer shipping to Australia, for example, for low prices. So if you're in Australia, it's an interesting option. But of course, compared to eBay, for example, you might end up paying more, but the price is fixed in the sense that it's not a bid, or it's not moving according to the moods of the seller, because it's more of a traditional store.
It's more like the anyone who's collected Magic cards is probably familiar with the model that's going on there.
If you want to eventually take a look on the site, there's a code that you can get until February 7th to get a 15% discount for everyone that's here. So if that's something that interests you. As Peter said, it's personally, when I'm looking for collectibles on the internet, there are different ways to go about this. I've always been more of a fan of going on a specific site that has like you said, for Magic cards, there's plenty examples. Of course, you can get the cards for less if you, you scrounge up on eBay or found someone that would trade those cards to you. But depending on your time or how much you're willing to put in miles of effort into it,
and how much you trust the other person on the end of eBay.
Yeah, that as well. So.
South pins.
They've had a few small problems today, but the majority of them are fixed. They are now available apart from
GTG.
Yeah.
That was an interesting development this morning, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think everything was, anyway, before we started the panel, almost everything was there already.
Everything but greater than games, and
Yeah.
they promise that those will be tomorrow.
They were also saying they might be the end of tomorrow. So anyone who's trying to get them before they get out and they're not going to be here for Sunday, you might still have to put your name down and have them shipped.
Yeah. For those of you that are completely, totally new to this, we, those of us who have been here before, take for granted the fact that you show up at, at PAX, and if you want pins, they're all pins, and they're all up online, and you know how to get them from, pennyarcade.com. There's the post, and you show up on day one, and you could start your hunt for pins. But like all things in the world, we are but creatures of logistics, and sometimes if logistics lets you down, a few hours later, hopefully logistics will come through. So for those of you who are brand new to this and you were walking around, it's like, all right, it's time for pins, and there were no pins, this is the first and likely only time that will happen. Granted, I have no insider information, but we've been through several PAXs now, and the pins are usually there when you want them to be there.
So let's just go down a quick run list of what's being available today. Penny Arcade is obviously offering their own set, the standard pack set, the South 2015 set. Those will pretty much be available throughout the weekend. You guys know this. The Polygon one, our new limited edition, 600 tomorrow and 300 on Sunday. I highly suggest you be in line for merch by 8 a.m. because they sell out every morning, and you're gonna have to wait. But if you want them at that price, they're gonna be a heavy trade value, obviously, too, this weekend. And they will be a heavy trade value as we go on throughout the rest of the pack, since the shields have kind of shown how good those are. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the community was saying that despite how much of a pain it was to actually collect the shields, they're one of the most memorable ones because of it. So having something like this again, it's going to be one at every PAX likely, and yeah, you need to get up very early, which I'm not a fan of. But
So then right next door, Bandland has 3 more. Loading Ready Gun has their spoop pin. Then Chris has, I forgot the name of the character from Brood Hollow.
Iris.
Iris, yes. The Iris pin, and
Scratch Riding Kirby.
yep.
It's called Giddy Up.
Giddy Up is the pin name? Okay.
Yeah.
Scott has his as well. Scott also has his old pins. He is selling them at $15 as well.
Oh yeah, new people to the hobby, grab those. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Loading Ready Run has their spooky dolls from Prime, and I think Chris still has some. He had another.
Yeah, he's got Cthulhu dice.
Katie has
Yeah.
hers too, yes, and she has both of her cats and the We Don't Watch Us campers. Then we go into the hall, and the 2 freebie pins are. Oh, MC Frontalot does have. I didn't see him here this yet. Okay, so MC Frontalot is here. That one's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but he does 25. So yeah, that one is there. So 5 places to stop if you want to go crazy over there. Head inside to the hall. We have the 2 freebie pins, one for Moonrise and the other one for State of Decay. Do the demo. State of Decay takes a little bit longer because they only have 3 setups. Moonrise is really quick and easy, and it's actually a really, really fun game that I can't wait to come out. The pay for pins, we have Greater Than Games. They don't have theirs yet, but they are selling them for $15, or you can do some demos for what they're like bonus dollars.
If you take a table of people with you, you could probably do it in about an hour, but it's 1,000 points for the pin. And it's like you get 20 points if you do the demo on your own, but if you bring people, you get 30 points per person. So it seems like if we take everyone here and go mob Andy, we'll be all right.
Trendy Entertainment has their pin for Dungeons & Defenders 2, the little turret sentry. They're straight selling it for $20 with a purchase of their game. However, if you are to go and get in line and do the demo, they will hand you a ticket. The ticket takes $10 off any purchase, either the game with the pin or something else. But
Posters, shirts,
yes,
the whole lot.
The whole lot for the most part. So you can get one pin pretty much at $10 along with the game, and then all the rest are at $20. And then
The magic pin.
Good old magic.
Yeah.
They're always so cool.
Just very quickly, hands up if you've been furiously rubbing your badge since you've been there.
For those of you who are new to this, Magic, well, I'll let my panelists speak about it, but every so often, vendors, for entirely justifiable reasons, want to limit pin consumption to like 1 per person, which, if you are a casual hobbyist, is totally fine. However, there are some people that want more pins. Just putting that out there.
Or, once again, part of the groups.
Yeah.
I have 2 I need to send to Australia, including the one for me and the one that has to go to Seattle. So, makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah.
If you want to get the Magic Pin and you aren't initiated to the game, the best thing I would recommend to you is to play in one of their events they call the Hunt for Garuk, I believe. That is a very new player-friendly event that costs $20.
You will get product, as in they give you a pre-constructed deck. You play 3 quick 1-round matches. It is down to 1 round now? Oh, even better. So 1 round, 20 minutes, $20. You'll get some Magic cards, and you will get enough of the prize tickets to get the pin. That is probably the easiest way to get the pin now. They do that every 2 hours, and I think they're going till midnight tonight and tomorrow, and then till 6 on Sunday.
So if Magic scares you, this is really the best way because it's easy, friendly, and everyone there will be glad to help you.
And Magic should scare you. It's the devil's game.
Like pins instead.
Yeah. The far more virtuous pin trading hobby. That's what. So, all right, everybody. We're going to talk about the value of pins. And to do that, I'm going to give you guys a crash course in economics. But before I start that, we're going to create a little rule. Every time I point at you guys, you are going to say very enthusiastically, "Yay, economics." So, as I was saying, I'm about to talk about economics. Yay, economics! Oh my God, you guys are so into economics. Yeah. So the way economics works, and this is a very, very quick crash course, is economics is the study of the production and consumption of goods, essentially, from the iron mined out of mine to it being turned into steel to it being molded into a car and having an engine dropped in there and sent to San Antonio for someone to buy. That's economics, is the study of this great big chain of events that ultimately leads to someone getting something for money. That's a good kind of academic way to describe it. But essentially, for sake of what we're doing here, I want to talk about economics as this is what stuff costs and why. That's economics for us. That's what economics is for, really what you will need in life is think about economics as, oh, there's broccoli on my plate. How did it get here? Because a bunch of different people worked really hard to get it to you. It's very hard generally out in the world when you're trying to figure out what things cost to figure out what they cost. And the reason is, that example of, iron being eventually turned into a car is very complicated. That is a process that involves millions and millions of people and tons of equipment and, international shipping. And, if there is a problem in an iron mine in Brazil, it might mean your Toyota costs $300 more. And you're like, oh my God, my Toyota costs $300 more than when I read the ad. It's complicated. It's called an open economy. Penny Arcade's a closed economy. Our pin trading is a closed economy. And it's closed because we're only dealing with one product, and that is pins. Pins, you don't have to worry about, there's glass and there's this and it comes on a train and there are 1 million people responsible for these pins. No, it's like a few people. And in this world, you've only got 2 things. You've got the pins and you've got money. And that's it. That's all we need to worry about. And so because of that, it's easier to study the economics of our hobby. And that's just something to keep in mind when I talk about this because, pins have value. And they have value for a lot of different reasons. And, especially for you new folks, I don't want you to ever feel like you're being ripped off. If you feel like you're being ripped off, by the way, in a trade, don't make the trade. But when you're looking at your pin, you look at it and there's a value to it. There's this internal value. You look at, I'm looking at a pin here. I have a cat, and this cat is precious. And because he's precious, I value it probably higher than I should. There's a value for you for pins you have. There's a value for you for pins you don't have. That value is probably different, but we're not going to get into that. I want to talk about value in the more general sense. Normally, if you go to a store and buy a candy bar for $1, candy bar, you value that at $1. You are willing to pay $1 for that candy bar, but then you consume it. The trick with collectibles is that the value can move and change because they're not being consumed. You have them. They exist in a static world. And so your value for them or other people's value of these pins can change. There are actually, best I could tell, let me see, I wrote it down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that affect the value of a pin. And because there are 5 different things that affect the value of a pin, there is no right or wrong price for a pin. If someone walks up to you and wants to trade you a not super expensive pin for a pin that you have that is super expensive, and you want to make that trade, that's totally fine, because there's no right or wrong here, because there are 5 different things that make a pin valuable or not to you. One of them is actual rarity. That's the one that makes the most sense. It's like, oh, if the DLC pin, there are only, say, 300 of them in the earth that will ever exist, you would think that they're more valuable than a run of pins where they made 10,000 of them. 300 is more valuable than 10,000. That's pretty easy. But another thing that affects value is what I will call perceived rarity. A good example of that is, and again, for new folks, a couple of PAXs ago at PAX East, there was a pin, a Leroy Jenkins pin, if you guys are into Leroy Jenkins. The groans of understanding. So Leroy Jenkins was not a more limited run than some other pins. I think there was, say, 1,000 of those.
Correct.
But there are plenty of pins out there where there are 1,000, but the Leroy Jenkins pin is a lot more valuable to people because of its perceived rarity. Because there are 1,000 of them, it doesn't feel like there are 1,000 of them. It feels like there are only a few hundred out in the world. And so when you see one, you freak out. You value it higher. Because, folks, that's economics. You remembered. So there's that perceived rarity as well. Another thing that also is an impact on not rare pins is the initial price. So let's say you went to a behemoth machine. For you new folks, there's really cool vending machines where you get a pin at mostly random. Those pins are not terribly rare. So because they are not, you can kind of judge them based on the price you paid. Like if you paid $10 for a pin and it's not super rare and you want to trade it for another not super rare pin, a good gauge is, well, you paid $10 for that, I paid $10 for mine, here we go, and we shake hands and new friendship. So that's something to keep in mind too, is the actual price is a factor. As I've said, it's not the only factor, and as I've implied, it may not be the most important factor, but it is a factor, especially on pins where there are a lot of them. Another thing too that is very important to discount and accounts for, in my mind, a lot of the variance between how people value their own pins is the aesthetic or personal connection you have to it. The first pin you get, if you really like it, you might not want to trade that away, even for a more valuable pin. And you know what? That's totally fine. You could, like for me, one reason actually why the Leroy Jenkins pin is so valuable is there's a perceived rarity. It's also a really cool looking pin. And it's also a pin that means a lot to people that aren't just collectors of pins. There are some pins where, in the world, there maybe are not 1 million people that are playing Project Spark right now. That was a vendor that had a pretty cool-looking pin. And because there isn't a rabid following for Project Spark, as there is for, say, Leroy Jenkins, most of those pins are kind of in our little community. So they're easier to get, and they're less valuable for that reason. And then another impact is timing and hype. There are people that are not in this room that really wish they were at PAX. And right after PAX, they're going to look at all of the cool, fun stories of people getting their cool, awesome pins and all the fun friendships, because yay, friendship. And they will say, oh my God, I want these pins. And so there will be more people that might go to eBay and start bidding the heck out of the pins to do that. And that's why you will see great big spikes on eBay. One example, and we've mentioned it a couple of times, is the Naughty Dog pin. And that was a pin from a vendor. And the thing is, it was released very quietly, and only a few people got it. And some of those pins started popping up on eBay, and people were bidding through the roof for them. And the reason why they were is they didn't know that there would be more pins. They didn't know when they would show up, and so hype kind of pushed up the price. And so there were people that bought it on eBay for maybe $100. They could have just bought it from the site a month later for 15.
Or
So-
12 if they were quick.
Yeah, or if they were super quick, that. So it's a very intriguing phenomenon that happens because this is a closed economy. And before I move on, I want to give very, very super quick advice. So I've spent about a decade doing corporate financial planning, and I do a little bit of personal financial planning. Now, because of that, I'm going to give you some free financial planning advice. I'm going to list out a bunch of things that would be better for you to spend money on than pins. Earmuffs. Your rent. Student loans. Clothes that make you look like a person. Gas for your car. Your cable and telephone bills. And food for your bodies because you need it to live. When a hobby turns into an obsession, or when you start prioritizing pins or games or anything above expenses that you know in your heart of hearts you really should be spending money on, it goes from being a fun hobby about friendship and keepsakes into an obsession that you are not having any more fun doing. One other thing, super quick thing to keep in mind too, because I have a captive audience now, because we all love economics, is also more important than anything you spend money on collectibles-wise is your retirement. Seriously, start saving for your retirement right now. I'm seeing all various ages. All of you, every age is the right age to start saving for retirement. So, pay your future self. Your future self will appreciate it more than your current self does.
Even if it's just a little every week.
Just a tiny bit every week. So, that's the thing, is really kind of determine your engagement level with this. Give yourself a budget. And if the budget is not enough for you to be I must have all the pins level, make peace with that. And decide, I will only get the cool pins, or I will only get the pins from the places I go. You will benefit from that later on.
You can fight against the brain squirrels.
Oh man, they love fighting back. You can beat them.
I want to share just a small advice regarding the value of your pins, how to get the most value out of your pins when you trade with others. One thing that I'm lucky to have, because I manage the Pin Trader site, is that I can see who from where around the world looks at the pins at what time. And I discovered something very interesting. The pins from PAX Prime, for example, were looked by, all the pins, were looked by the people from PAX Prime. Interestingly, the interest for a PAX-specific pins grow when the PAX happens. So, for example, for the last week, the place around the world where there's been the most interest about pins is in Texas. So that means the pins that you get here, the people that want them are probably not those that are currently looking for pins, because the most people that are looking for pins are from Texas, and most likely they went to PAX South. So it's a very good idea to hold onto some pins that you want to trade later for later PAXs, because sometimes people can, for example, go on eBay, get an idea of how much their pins are worth right after a PAX, and it might seem low, sometimes even lower than what you paid for. Just be patient. Like in 1 or 2 PAXs, the people that will get an interest in those pins will not be the one that were in Texas. So grab onto your pins.
Yeah, that's something that I saw. I was in PAX Australia, and they had all the Australian pins from last year, and they were then trading them with other Australians the next year. So it's quite likely that you're going to see a lot of this year's South pins at the next South being traded.
Yeah, that's one thing that's pretty interesting to keep in mind is, I talked a little bit about engagement levels. Like, there are some people that want all the pins, but there are some people that, dare I say most people, that they go to their one PAX and they like it, and if they get into pin trading, there may be a completist within their own PAX, and, the pins that you have from PAX South will be more interesting next year at the next PAX South.
Usually to people who decide on Sunday, just after everything's closed, oh, hey, I should get some pins.
There's a lot of those.
A lot.
So many.
Right before we let you go back to your hunt for the pins, we'd like to give you the chance to ask us for any questions you might have about the world of Pinny Arcade. Anything. You can get up to the microphone.
Feel free to line up. We'll try to answer
Any questions is fair game. If you want us to pick between one pin or the other, or why DLC is worth so much, or whatever fills your heart.
Go ahead.
So I want to gauge the consensus of the value of the cards that pins come on and the cellophane wrapper that comes around. Should I be worried about either or both of those?
Aesthetically,
will it reduce the chance of me trading that pin for a pin that I want?
Probably
That's the
not.
question I care about.
Honestly, probably not.
Right.
Yeah,
Although the cellophane is invaluable from keeping them getting scratched, and I don't know why they stopped doing that. But so now a lot of people actually bring in their own bags. So if you're going to be collecting a hell of a lot of them, you probably want to get some just to avoid them getting damaged.
Penny slicks. Anyone who's ever played card games knows exactly what those are. They are a pack of 100 card sleeves for $1. They are your best friend to protect, or the team bags that you can seal those up too, because then you have even a seal for those. If you want to make them look nice and minty, that's it.
Yeah, so it's really more of like kind of a tactical thing. Like, I want to protect this cool pin. I have never I've probably traded hundreds of pins, I guess. No one has ever said, oh, well, that plastic bag isn't canon. So, so for me, actually, one thing that's pretty cool is they sell, you can get locking pin backs. Those things are super useful too.
Please get those.
Yeah, get those.
Oh yeah, get those.
I'm a big fan of, if anyone wears earrings, those bags of earring back replacements that you can buy 100 of for $3? They are a perfect fit, and they will not go anywhere ever. But yeah, it doesn't reduce the value for you to not have it. It's about the pin, and not even so much the back. Like, and if someone's like, oh, you're using an earring back instead of like a regular rubber back, just say, oh, well, just keep your back. Just give me the pin. But it shouldn't affect it at all.
No on wrapper, no on cards.
No, I mean, some people prefer having the cards when they're doing their displays, but you're likely to be able to just... Some people don't care, so you can get them from them.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
really,
no.
Yeah.
Let's say 99% of the time,
No.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Wait a minute. So for everyone who answers or asks a question, we've got a wonderful bag of penny, and you can go ahead and grab one random pin.
Start your collection now.
Oh, questions come to mind.
Oh, now everyone starts thinking. People are just going to be like, how are you?
Go ahead.
So I keep seeing you guys, but I keep forgetting to ask you, like, individually, which is your favorite pin, like, your personal favorite pin?
The next one.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's a
That's
poetic
meta.
answer.
That is meta.
No, I mean, the ones I've just picked up now, I've got them here in front of me, and
You want to show them off so we can see them?
this one,
That
it's
new,
actually a
the new
genuine
Moonrise
multi-part
is
pin.
spectacular.
If you've seen their display, they've
Yeah,
got another one for
where it
East
goes
and
all
another one
three.
for Prime. They're going to fit together, so yeah, probably that one.
I could really just be just terrible and say the DLC, but
all right.
in all honesty, I am a huge fan of the Etoile pin. I love Tearaway. Iota was really boring. Etoile was much bigger, had all the curls and all that kind of stuff. That pin and it's colorful, and that's perfect for me.
I will be terrible and say the DLC pin. and the reason why is for those of you who haven't seen it before, go on one of the myriad of sites we mentioned and look at the art. What?
It's on the last slide.
Oh,
Just
how
go back to the
convenient.
slide.
So yeah, it was also up there on my slide about economics.
Yay, economics.
Nailing it, guys.
There you
and,
go.
And look at that. Like, that is exactly what I love about gaming. Not just pins, but gaming is you're there with your friend and you're pontificating, and it's just a fun like this is the hobby we do. This is the hobby because we like talking about these things and doing these things and being relaxed on a couch somewhere, sharing a hobby and an interest. And I think that shows it off very well.
And for me personally, it's because I think it's a trophy to show that your dedication to Pinny Arcade and everything. Is the Club PA pin that I wore proudly on my bag with a locking back. Also a good idea not to lose it because I lost my first one. But yeah, if you guys are interested in getting that pin, watch out for the Club PA
Tarnishing.
memberships for 2015. You might get a pin if you register. Thank you.
Cool. Have a pin.
All right, aside from flying to Australia, what is the hardest thing you've had to do to get a pin you wanted?
Oh. Okay.
And keep it G.
I will tell the story of my DLC. I physically traded for my DLC, and it hurt. I traded away about 70% of my tradable collection, which was, I would guess, valued at, if I were to put every single piece individually on eBay, about $3,500. This included 2 of each of the PAX shields, an OS 13 set, and a few OS 14 sets, a Leroy Jenkins, a order pin. Like, I'm pretty much, for anyone who's new here, I am naming off all of the rare pins. And I put them in a wonderful box and shipped them off to St. Louis. And luckily, 2 days later, I got that beautiful little piece of metal. And then I had another wonderful forum member who decided to yell at me a little bit because I took away his trade. And then he decided that he was going to get one of those nice little fur crew bags, or funky bags as we've been calling them, and he got one. So now I don't need to yell at him anymore.
Clap for that man.
But the DLC was terrible. The order pin, anyone around here who got one at its prime can tell you how terrible those were. Leroy, anyone can tell you the lines of people running through PAX East with the enforcers just shaking their heads as this one guy led them on a rabbit chase all around everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll try to squeeze in a few more questions if time allows us. Go ahead.
So you might not want to answer this, Pedro, but is it black magic? How do you get all the pins you get? I'm always impressed and amazed at the...
I don't sleep. And I get to travel a lot, and I've got the budget to do it, so I can, as long as I can.
I mean, do you buy as many pins as you can, or are you strictly a trade-only kind of guy?
I'm in one of the best pin groups possible. I mean, Manic, Henchman, and now Frostbite. Yeah. I couldn't do it on my own.
Gotcha.
And he's got this weird marble altar in his house. Like, I don't know what's on the altar, but it's like in his house, so.
Yeah. Bloodstone circle. Yeah.
No. Okay.
Hi.
So my question is actually pretty general because my phone internet stopped working, so I can't actually look at it myself. Like, I know the pin, but I'm trying to figure out when Pinny Arcade started. When was the first pin released? What year?
2012.
What
Christmas
day?
2012.
Okay, so it was a Christmas, yeah, because
Yeah.
I couldn't find it and my phone was dead, so I gave up.
That was the one, and then after at PAX East 2013, they started selling the sets.
Okay, so
2012 was a merch.
Yeah, okay.
That was part of I think it was $100 if you purchased that.
yeah,
they
the
sent you a
whole
merch.
thing. Yeah, I got that. I couldn't find the year, and I was like, which one? Okay,
That's
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm new to this, and I wanted to try and find some pins without breaking my bank. There's a lot of things to spend money on, and I wanted to know what are some good suggestions for pins you can get on a budget.
The trading event tomorrow is
Definitely.
the staff will do one-for-one trades on anything, so you can start. Go over and just do a little bit of farming of the Moonrise and the State of Decay pins. Just grab like maybe 2 or 3 extra of those, and then just hang out. Talk to people. The staff loves to give away pins, especially to new people. We had 2 little kids at Prime that there is a wonderful story that is way too long for me to even tell right now, but they love to just help new collectors.
Yeah.
And
in fact, because you're new, come here and have this.
We've got a 15th anniversary pin for you.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
come on, man.
I'm not going to throw it at you.
And I mean, one thing that's interesting too is this is a hobby that's based on people and based on people that like talking to other people. We're all here in this room because of that, really, and also because of economics.
Economics.
So, if you're new and you say you're new, like I traded a pin for a half banana.
Yes, you
did. I didn't even hold off for the whole banana.
PAX East 2014. I was right next to him, and it was probably the best trade I saw all day.
Well, the banana was delicious, very fresh. But yeah, I mean, just, you go, like, there will always, hopefully, there will always be free pins. There will always be pins that involve you playtesting a game that will most likely be very cool that you wouldn't have playtested otherwise. Get that pin. Play it twice. Like, don't be a jerk to people and, like hunt people down for their pins. But if you play it a couple times and get a couple of free pins, trade them with staff to get their pins. And then there will be someone out there in the great big world that has not been able to get that one staff pin, and then you could trade that for a pin that you value more than that staff pin that for you was free.
We'll be able to do 3 more questions. I'm sorry for the others in line. Although if you want to take a chance at the grab a bag, meet us or meet my friend.
We'll be doing a little bit of an impromptu trade session somewhere away from the doors after this, so we'll be able to talk and do everything like that.
What's up, boys?
What's up?
Yo.
So, where do you guys keep your precious collections? Where is it? Like, is it in a safe? I know yours is in a safe. You don't have to tell me that.
Obviously.
Right next
I've
to
seen
my
nice
bed.
walls. Mine are in a bin. Mine are in a nice plastic bin.
Shadow boxes are the favorite,
Yeah.
or nice frame things. They look really spectacular. Get a nice big black mat backing. Put some flair in it. Put a few
I don't know if
patches.
my girl
Put a
would like that
scarf
one
in it.
so much. I can hide them in the bin.
Yeah.
She doesn't know
Again,
when it
if you
grows.
go on the
or-
forums, we've got a whole thread dedicated to people who've made just
pin
the
display.
best
Yeah.
designs. I'm in the process of getting mine done, but it's going to take me a while.
And I'm working on the
yeah.
other options. You have really nice folders that some of the Disney community really make that are just nice felt folders that you can just open up, just kind of keep on either the front of your desk or something of the sort like that. Those are really good too.
Let me tell you a little something about marriage, everybody. Marriage is about compromise. And even if you want to put up your really, really awesome cork boards full of pins, sometimes your spouse will be like, please don't take down my diploma so you can put up those pins. And you must abide by what your spouse wants to do there. There are a million different ways to do it. Whatever you do, just do it in a way that, keeps them top of mind and displays them. I mean, they are art. Like, look at that. That's art. Every pin you see is art. Someone designed it for you. So, yeah.
2015. Oh, sparkly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Please do. And we love actually seeing those things. So please.
Yeah, so everyone has like their story of what got them into pin trading. Like personally, I was going after like the 20th edition of From the Vault from Magic, and ended up sleeping out next to a homeless person overnight at Prime. And they ended up giving everyone, like the first 11 people in line, a Oschandra pin. That's what started mine. So I'm kind of curious as to what started your guys' massive addiction and what brought the brain swirls to you.
Prime 13 for me, and just seeing all the lanyards. I bought 2 base sets and a Prime set, and I was done. Enough said.
Yeah. I got the merch in the Christmas and was just, I guess I'll keep going, and I have.
I actually won my first set at one of the, and it's got to be here. I haven't checked the schedule for it, but is there a pitch your game panel here? Yes. Oh, great. I won my first one there, pitching a game. And I said, oh, these things are so cool. I shall get more. And there we are.
Personally, since I've been in college, I've always watched everything Pinny Arcade does. So when I saw on the side that they were doing pins, and I've always wanted to go to PAX, and so I saw that's an awesome hobby. I want those, especially if they do pins every PAX. It's like you keep a trophy of every single event, and especially for me, I'm from Canada, so every time I go to a PAX, it's almost a pilgrimage to go to this awesome event with these awesome people, and so I keep the pins as a memento of great souvenirs I have.
Very cool. Thank you.
Hey guys, so I'm about last night on the forums, and one of the things I've noticed is that it's really hard for all of us to get the pins, as we saw today. Today was pretty much a day that I can write off for getting my pins for my PinPals. And I have one in Australia, I have one in Seattle, and I'm getting one in Texas. So now that there's 4 PAXs we have to get pins for our PinPals, one of the things that some of us in the community have been talking about is some sort of card, some sort of evidence that we are pin pals, or some sort of way that we have a better chance of getting the pins for everybody, but then it takes away from everybody else. So what do you guys think about the fact that as pin pals, now we have 4 PAXs to get pins for our friends, and it's getting harder?
We work in teams. I mean, I'm here with Frostbite because on my own, I could probably just about get 4, but I would die. Other than that, I think just talk to the people. I mean, a lot of the time, I'm told that I get pins a lot easier than most people, but I usually just talk to the people running the booths, and you know, I'm actually interested in what they're doing, and so yeah, if you actually talk to them like they're human beings, then sometimes they help you out.
The one interesting thing about that question is, you know, the kind of the meta question, which is that a feature or a bug? You know, like one of the interesting things about this pin trading hobby is there should be some things that are hard to get. Like there should be those things where, well crap, I can't get 4 of that. Heck, I can't get 2 of that. And so, you know, hopefully you are with pin pals, even the most enthusiastic of pin pals, that understand that there are some things that are not physically possible. And hopefully you get them enough of the pins they want that they can go and hunt them down themselves. But, you know, in my mind, it's okay that sometimes you can't do it. Like it's, you know.
And talk to your pin pals.
No, it's not.
Believe me, I understand. I'm saying this because there are people here.
Talk to your pin pals, and they are, obviously you get to need to know all of them, but as you get to know them over time, everyone knows our limits. I'm trying to get 2 full sets for my osmate, because I owe her big for the most part. And I don't think that's going to be possible, especially with the magic pin. But I have been talking to her and telling her everything that I can, and she's completely understandable. It's tough. I've done it. I did it at East. I got 4 full sets for a whole bunch of people, and it was not fun at all. I kind of missed out on a lot of that stuff. But if you were able to talk to the vendors and talk to your pin pals, just have that understanding. Yeah, we're hardcore, but don't expect the world from me.
Yeah, it's about expectations too. Like, you know, if you are comfortable getting pins for all of these different people, you will expect that most of your time here will be spent chasing down these pins. And for some people, for many in this room, for some on this panel, in fact, that's like a very fun and valid use of your time. You know, there are a lot of ways to do it, but I think as time goes on, it will probably, and I would imagine by design, again, I don't, you know, I'm just estimating based on how these things kind of sort of have worked in history, it will get harder to keep getting all the pins for everybody. It's
that
supposed
was the
to
design.
Yeah, that's the design is, and so, you know, that starts putting more and more, I guess I'll say pressure, but in a good way, more and more pressure for people to get out into the forums, to get into the community, and try to sort something out if your pin pal can't come through.
Yeah, to actually put the emphasis on trading. You know, if you can't go to a booth or they're limiting it, pick up some of the other ones. I mean, I know that the South set, a lot of people just want the sheriff's badge out of it. So find someone who plays Magic, doesn't care about the pin, start trading with them.
And since you're our wonderful last question, I've got a wonderful D&D 40th anniversary pin right for you.
Thank you.
So come on up and everyone clap for her.
Not a problem.
Right before we let you all go and hunt again, Justin.
So, guys, here's that Oprah moment time. Some of you guys should start looking under your chairs.
Respectfully,
because there may be an envelope underneath it. There is a number of chairs that have envelopes underneath it that our wonderful pin trader has decided to nicely give out gift certificates to go, please respectfully and quietly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there are some
Falling all over the place now.
there are some wonderful gift certificates that Shadow has gracefully donated.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's our time. So,
thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And yeah, if you get one and we start being herded out of here, we'll be outside and not blocking any fire exits. Again, guys, thanks and welcome to the community.
Keep on.
What would you tell me, please? is what do